economic uncertainty, but in 2026, things are apparently about to switch up. Job hopping is supposed to be heating up. So I'm going to be talking with a technology hiring and consulting expert about what you can expect, some do's and don'ts, and plenty more. Also, doctors had no idea why a man described as being otherwise fit and well ended up having a stroke until he told them what he was drinking on a daily basis. Moral of the story, even gym rats can make major mistakes when it comes to your overall health. So before we get to New Year, New Me, we want to make sure that everyone is marching forward the right way, approaching things the right way, and we're going to talk to a doctor about that. Also, we have heard it for years that melanoma risk can be tied to sun and also alternatives like tanning beds. But a new study is the first to show just how tanning beds mutate skin cells far beyond the reach of ordinary sunlight. You'll be able to hear from a woman whose melanoma diagnosis led to surgery, years of frequent follow-up visits, and more than 15 additional biopsies as new moles were appearing. It is a testimony that all of us should listen to. But first, there's been a lot of attention this week from Capitol Hill and to many individual states on a topic that is affecting so many households across our country: sextortion. The FBI calls this form of online coercion modern-day terrorism, as cases are surging, some of them leading to people's deaths. In Wisconsin, Governor Tony Evers signed Braden's Law this week, which creates a new crime for sexual extortion. It is in honor of the 15-year-old who died by suicide in March after being targeted by a predator online who convinced him to send photos of himself and told him that he needed to send money or face major consequences. Braden's parents, Luke and Brittany Bird, are joining me now. Thank you so much for your time and turning your pain into a purpose that could really help others.
Absolutely. And thank you for giving us a platform to be able to continue to share this message even further. It's so important, and that's one of the reasons why we're able to get this message out. It's people like you guys who ask about it and want to share.
Listen, I think it could help so many people. It's a struggle for all parents and guardians, I think, because we didn't come up in the age of internet and social media to really understand all of the ins and outs that go into it. But I'd like you just to take me back. First, just tell me about Braden.
Braden was a fantastic athlete. He's a great big brother. His sister just turned 9 on March 8th. Yeah. He was a great student, did very well academically, still liked to mess around in class, but did well, had a great group of friends, very active, had a big future ahead of him that he definitely wanted to live out.
Yeah, he was just a really good kid, and really at 15 starting to set goals and work towards those things, and just really good habits. I guess everything you'd want to see as a parent, in your child growing, and seeing those habits and behaviors going in the right direction. And he was very goal orientated.
Yeah, a good kid who's online like all kids these days. And how did he end up interacting with these people who took things to a totally different level?
He was initially contacted on Facebook Messenger and then was asked to switch to a different messaging app called Telegram, which we weren't familiar with. But there's a lot of these apps that are end-to-end encryption, and it's a little bit harder to track these kinds of conversations. But it was initially on Messenger on Facebook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And how long did it go on before you found out what was going on?
Yeah, so our case is ongoing right now, and we really don't have all of those details. All we do know is that, the last time that any of us saw him, I came down to his room and just said, hey, let's, start getting ready for bed here soon. Start winding down, and that was at about 10:45, 11 o'clock. And so, we we can only estimate that it was about 4 or 5 hours. But
Mm.
again, we don't have all of those details as of yet.
Yeah.
But either way, it was very, very quickly.
Have you been able to see through the online, any type of online forensics, I guess, that would be done, how this escalated?
We have learned through other people's stories and experiences, who we've talked to, that it typically goes the same way. As soon as a photo is sent, it's an immediate change of conversation. The perpetrator will then turn to threats and demands for money. It's and they'll constantly message. I know there was a case recently and it was like 130 messages in the last like 20 minutes.
Oh my.
So they bombard these kids and make them so they can't even process any of it. Um,
Yeah, they definitely keep the pressure on. The second they get what they're looking for, whether that be the photo or they even get money, in our case, we do know that our son did send money,
Mm.
and they just kept pressuring and kept pursuing more. And that's just part of their tactics and what they do.
Yeah. It's like you said, far too many families have these stories nowadays. Have you bonded with some of them? I know this is not a club that any parent would want to be in, but have you been able to bond with each other in sharing your stories?
yeah, it was, I think, the week after Braden died, there was a sextortion presentation a couple hours from us that we went to. And John DeMay was there presenting about his son Jordan, and we have been extremely close. We've gone across Wisconsin doing presentations with John. We have a group chat where it's a lot of the parents, and we're able to connect that way. Definitely not a club that anyone wants to be in, but we are in good company with the other families. They're extremely supportive and kind, and they understand. And it's just something that no one else can really get
Mm-hmm.
unless you've lived it. So
Right?
it's validating to have those relationships.
Yeah, yeah. How has it changed your family?
It's been difficult. You know, you talk about just having that extra chair at the table,
Mm-hmm.
putting Christmas things up and seeing all of these things. It's been
Um,
hard.
yeah, and we actually just last night, his little sister was having a rough night, and she just told me that she's worried that she's going to forget him
Mm.
and that she has to wait so long to see him again. So talking that out with a 9-year-old
Mm.
has been really difficult, but it's definitely brought us all so much closer together.
Yeah. I cannot imagine having to deal with your own pain and then also trying to navigate your other children's pain that they are going through at their level of understanding as well. So this law was just signed in honor of your son. How did that make you feel?
I mean, for me, it was a huge first step, and it took a lot of work. And in the legislation perspective, it went through very quickly. Um, we were contacted by a few representatives in our area, within a week after, and this is something that had been worked on previously. So there was a lot of back and forth at first, and how does that look, and what type of the punishment portion, what are we looking at? And there was a little back and forth on that, and ultimately we were very pleased that they decided to go with as high as a Class B felony and carry up to 60 years. Um, it doesn't. We've said this. It doesn't impact our case
Mm-hmm.
because ours won't be tried federally. But the biggest thing for me personally is the fact that it just sends a very strong message that we're not going to put up with this stuff in Wisconsin, and we're going to make you think twice about, partaking in this behavior.
Yeah. Um, when you speak to others now, I mean, what is your message to other parents? Because it is so hard to catch.
A lot of the speaking that we've done, we've been able to do like a student portion and then also a community portion in the evening. The parent conversations are a little bit different, right? Those conversations look more like these are what apps you need to look for and, decide whether you're going to allow or not allow. This is don't let your kid have their phone in their room at night, all the things that, the kids don't want to hear. But also, we make sure to share with parents, remember, your kids are kids. Their brains are not fully developed. They don't have impulse control. They can't see past today. You need to have the conversation with them that I know there are going to be times that you're going to make mistakes. We are here to help. And we had absolutely had those conversations with Braden, but not a conversation surrounding what if this happens, because we just know to have that conversation.
Yeah, it's definitely, what do you do if you're in that situation? I think one of the big things that we've been messaging to the parents especially is how quickly this can happen. There is one case that we know of that from contact to the point where the child took his life, it was 27 minutes. And then on the opposite end, there was a boy, and I apologize, I don't remember his name offhand, but he was being sextorted for almost 6 weeks.
Oh my goodness.
So in most cases, it is 4 to 6 hours or less, but that's, there are other unique cases that have gone longer also. So, one of the things I just talked about in one of the schools we were at last week with the parents is just think about that. It was 27 minutes from the time this boy was contacted. How many times have you had your kids, playing video games or, you think they're talking with friends in their room that you haven't checked on them in that amount of time, So it can happen that quickly.
I think another important piece like that we keep sharing with parents too is this conversation is going to be uncomfortable. But this is our kids' world now. It's so normalized to do things like this. I mean, they meet other kids just online or because they have mutual friends. And there are people online who get paid for nude videos, photos, whatever it may be. So it is so normalized. But then they are so shamed for it by these perpetrators. That's how they feel there's no way out. So having that conversation with parents too, and just saying, this is not the world we grew up in. We cannot sit there and say, I never would have done that. We didn't have these tools in our hands that our kids do. It's just so different.
Yeah. And for them to feel comfortable to talk to you, because it's such a moment of like, okay, am I going to be in trouble? But it could also end up saving their lives.
Okay. And in the student portion of things, we also kind of mention how it's unfair to kids this age that they might have to speak out for their friend. In our case, Braden was talking to a friend about what was going on, but his friend didn't know what to do. He didn't know to call us or talk to his mom. So that's another conversation too. It's just like, if you're not comfortable going to mom or dad or another trusted adult and you reach out to a friend, if you're that friend, you've got to say something. If your buddy's going to be mad at you, that's okay. They'll still be here.
Yeah, that's so important for them to know. Let me ask you, I mean, they're speaking to other kids, and then there's speaking to your own that is still living. How hard is that now for you to not do like a helicopter parenting over your child that's still here?
Yeah, that's what's the toughest is, as we said earlier in talking about Braden, like he was just doing everything you'd want your teenage kid to do. So we were just gradually giving him a little bit more and more freedom. And obviously, now we regret that. But at the same time, you don't want to invade their privacy too much and like you said, be a helicopter parent, because then they won't come to you. And Braden, that's what's just been getting to us the most, is how much Braden came to us for things and talked to us about, more adult type things, especially Brittany. So, it's just,
I guess we're lucky at this point that Aurora is young enough that, she doesn't have
Mm-hmm.
a phone and she won't anytime soon. But I think that the changes that are starting to happen, you even see what just happened in Australia, right? Maybe we
Mm-hmm.
are going to be able to adapt or adopt something similar. And then by the time she is in her teen years, there's going to be a whole different process to getting online, being on social media. And so that conversation will likely change. But right now, it's nothing with internet access in your bedroom. If you're, going to be, it's not that she does much on the internet, she's still small enough that she's still in that little bubble where we don't have to have those internet safety conversations quite as heavy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about your attire today.
So, shortly after this happened, we've had so much support from our community, and these are just a couple of shirts that people had made up, and we're putting out there for folks. So it's always nice to see these shirts running around town.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a small piece of what the community's done to help us and support us.
Braden's friends had a big hand in the LLBB,
Mhm.
Live Like Braden Bone. They just kind of started it and we ran with it, and they've really been rallying behind us, and it's been really great.
Well, I hope that the community continues to love on you, to support you in every way possible. And again, thank you so much for being open and sharing what you've been through, because I truly believe it will save other lives. I know that you wish that you weren't even in a predicament to have to do what you're doing, that your son was still here. But what a beautiful legacy to be able to honor him in this way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
God bless you. All right, it's 1:18 right now. We'll be right back. Hey, welcome back, everyone. It's 1:20 right now, and even though it is super duper cold outside here in Chicago, still a good time before it gets warm to have conversations about tanning. I mean, we've heard for years that sitting out in the sun for long periods of time without sunscreen, the effects that that could have on skin. We've even heard about tanning beds. But a new study that just came out today is the first to show how tanning beds mutate skin cells far beyond the reach of ordinary sunlight. Heidi Tarr has quite the story to tell, so I will let her tell you herself instead of me trying to summarize it. Heidi, thank you so much for your time.
Hi, nice to meet you, and thanks for having me and sharing this story with the public. I appreciate that.
I think it could help some people, and that's what we want to do. And thank you for being willing to share, so that other people might be able to, prevent themselves from going through what you went through. How did this happen? You had quite the episode here.
Yeah, so I'm Generation X, to give you an idea of my age, but in my high school years and in college, I used tanning beds, just like all my friends did, to get that quick tan, what seemed to be nice looking skin, and use them pretty regularly, probably 2 to 3 times a week. And through college and grad school, so through my early adulthood life. And about in 2011, I just happened to glance at my back in the bathroom mirror after a shower, and had seen a mole that changed. It looked different. It was bigger. It had a lot of different colors. And I had been going to see a dermatologist, but not consistently, to check my skin. So I called my dermatologist, got an appointment, and knew instantly when she looked at my back. She seemed to pause and then said, "There's something going on here," and found out. She called me a few days later in the evening after I'd put my kids to bed. They were young at the time. And she called and told me that it was a melanoma. So to me, that meant a really deadly form of skin cancer.
What was that moment like, learning something like that?
I was terrified. I was, when thinking of melanoma, that just, for me, I knew it was deadly. And having, as a parent, I had 2 young kids, and that's where of course, I thought about first, that my kids need me. I'm not ready yet. And, I don't know how this will turn out, because I really know nothing about melanoma. But I knew that I would have to have surgery.
So you had that surgery and 15 additional biopsies?
Yeah, so through the years, you don't think of this when you're young and tanning, for me, at least in the tanning bed, but, about a decade later, started having skin biopsies, moles that looked atypical or that looked like they might develop into cancer, taken off. And I continued to do that even more recently, having to get biopsies removed. The things that I did in my teens and early 20s, now I'm facing those consequences.
Wow. Is it just like a constant state of fear? I feel like, anybody that has gone through a cancer battle, you're like happy when you get to ring a bell, or happy when you're told that, okay, you're cancer free, but there's always that thing in the back of your mind, like, is it going to come back?
You described that very well. There's anxiety, because I had melanoma. For the first few years, I had to see my dermatologist, Dr. Garami, here in Chicago every 3 months. And now I see him every 6 months, but I have for over a decade now, and I will for the rest of my life, because I am at risk. And now with this research that came out, we know that the tanning bed lights do really bad damage to your skin cells. And so I'm at risk for another melanoma, or the melanoma recurring where it was on my back. And it hangs over my head, but here's what the positive part of this is that if you detect melanoma early, like mine was detected, as soon as I saw a change in my skin, I made an appointment with my dermatologist. If it's detected early, you're going to have a more positive outcome. So that's what the good news is that, if you keep doing your skin checks, go see a doctor, have them look at your skin on an annual basis, that you can prevent a more serious outcome, even if you get melanoma.
Yeah, what were your thoughts when you saw this new study, given what you've been through?
Well, it confirmed what I suspected, that, at the time, when I was thinking, when I used tanning beds, the thought was tanning beds are safer. You spend less time under these light rays. They're safer than the sun because you don't burn. And now the study confirms, actually you may think the tan looks nice, but what you don't see are all the dangerous changes that are happening to the DNA in your skin cells. So for me, it just provided more evidence, and it confirmed what my hunch was and what Dr. Garami and his colleagues, their hunch was about this cohort of patients they were seeing that had used tanning beds a lot in their early adulthood, and now were in their 40s and getting melanoma and multiple melanomas.
Yeah. And in this study, it says that tanning bed users carry double the mutation burden, and tanning bed use is tied to almost a threefold increase in melanoma risk. What are your thoughts? What would be your message to the tanning bed industry that makes money off of this?
Well, I don't know directly what I would say to them. I'm more focused on consumers, parents, and other individuals, that they have the power to make a choice, right? And now, by media stations like yours sharing the news in more plain language for the public outside the medical community, people can make a choice not to use the tanning beds and to consider some alternatives. There's great products out on the market if people want that tan look, like sunless tanning sprays and lotions. And I know some of those tanning bed companies also provide those sunless tanning options. So make a choice that's safer, that's not linked to melanoma. For those like me that had a lot of exposure, I know it's scary hearing this news, but the good news part of it, like I said, is just to get to a doctor, have them check your skin, and keep doing that on an annual basis. And then call them before then if you notice anything that changes in your moles or anything new. It's sometimes really hard, though, to see your back or back of legs. And so that's why going to a doctor is so important too.
Yeah, and that's, especially for women, but really for everyone, that's a key to so many things, is just checking your body, knowing your body, so that if something does change, you're aware that, okay, well, I didn't see that last week, I didn't see that, the last time I checked, and that could help in so many different things when it comes to our health. This says also that the mutations appeared in body areas that don't even get much sun exposure. I know you talked about the fact that it kept coming back on your back.
Yeah, I have had a lot of skin biopsies on my back. Yes, but what this also shows, there was a misperception that the tanning beds were safer than the sun, right? But this research study, from my understanding, is the researchers looked at skin biopsies that were not exposed to sun. They were just exposed to tanning bed lights. And they still saw those dangerous changes. So that misperception of tanning beds being safer was wrong from the very beginning. And some of us have had to learn that lesson the hard way.
Yeah, how frustrating is that?
It's frustrating, but maybe some people would think, but you made the choice, right? You made the choice to do that. But now I think it's that we have more great research happening, and more research. And as we get that evidence, we can be more confident that we know the direct link. How I think about this is, smoking cigarettes can cause cancer. Same thing, tanning beds can cause skin cancer. And so you just have to think of it that way. It's really hard, though, to personalize that risk when you're young, and knowing, like, it might take 5 to 10 years before you face that consequence. But hopefully, the message will get out, and people will stop or never consider using a tanning bed, and explore some other safer options.
Yeah, and I think about, you brought up cigarettes. Think of like the million things around you every day that you pass on the road or that you might read that talk about the dangers of cigarettes. It's not the same for tanning beds.
Yeah, not right now. I I know many people still desire and are still desire that tan skin and are still using tanning beds. And it seems to be my daughter's 15. She said that a lot of her friends are using them, even posting TikToks, being in the tanning beds,
Mm-hmm.
singing songs or
Oh,
showing off their tan lines. That peer influence can be pretty strong. And, but if we get the word out and let people know of other options, then hopefully they'll make the right choice, and thinking that those lights, they're hurting your skin. You don't see the damage that it's doing, but it's doing big damage that can lead to cancer.
yeah. What, if you don't mind me asking, what do you do now? I mean, are you like, I'm not messing with any of that stuff, or do you choose some options now?
Yeah, it's not important to me, and maybe that was because over time, I got older, and then you start seeing like what is real beauty and
Mm-hmm.
what's important to you. And like I said, I had kids. So no, I would never use a tanning bed again. I tell everybody that, as many people that will listen to me. And also sunblock, of course. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm lucky. I have a great dermatologist. He covers that. It's repeat. Tell me over and over again. Use sunblock. You reapply it every hour and a half, and it's every day, even in those cold days in Chicago during the winter, that you still should be putting sunblock on, protect your skin. But I would never go to a tanning bed again. And I hope parents can encourage their perhaps younger adults or teens not to either.
Yeah, and how hard is that? Especially like you said, you have a 15-year-old. We were unfortunately just speaking with a family that had a very different situation, but it ties back into the things that kids see online. And I know that it's like when they're seeing an influencer do it, and here's a parent who's lived it, and you're trying to tell them you're not the cool person that's on the screen in front of them.
Yeah, exactly. But what I have found that is helpful, well, of course, my kids saw, the personal experience that I had, but
True.
it's not just a one and done conversation, whether we're talking about the couple that was on earlier, and my
Mm-hmm.
condolences to them. But when it comes to protecting your kids and also giving them advice, it's just repeat it over and over. It's not
Mm-hmm.
one conversation. You have to talk about it and remind them over time, and especially as their brains develop. Like you said, there's going to be new trends, new
Mm-hmm.
peers that are doing things, and you just have to have those candid conversations with them repeatedly.
Yeah, Heidi, thank you so much for coming on the show. And again, thank you for sharing your story to help others.
Pleasure meeting you. Thank you for your time.
Same. Happy holidays.
You too.
All
Bye.
right, it's about 1:35, everyone. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're kind of staying on a health note today. So we're going to have a story about energy drinks and the difference that they can make when you think you're just grabbing a few to stay alert, but they could be doing a lot more. right. It's 1:36 right now. A man is fit and well. That was the description for him. And then he has a stroke. So you're wondering, wait, what just happened here? Doctors start probing into, okay, what could have been in his system to make this happen? And they find out that he was drinking 8 energy drinks every day to stay alert at work. Dr. Fan Caprio is a vascular neurologist at Northwestern Medicine. Do your eyes just kind of bulge just hearing that?
It's scary, right? When we think about risk factors for stroke, high blood pressure is one of the most modifiable, one of the most common risk factors for a stroke. So that is a connection we've known well about. It's a scary connection because energy drinks are really common. So how much is too much, and what was the tipping point for this person?
Yeah, it was 3 times the recommended amount of caffeine, but it happens so easily. I remember, what are we in, 2025? So 15 to 17 years ago, when I first started a morning shift in news, and I was like, oh no, I don't drink coffee, but I was drinking loads of orange juice every day for the sugar kick, and it's like things happen so quickly. I get to another place and you're working on a morning show, and I was working with someone who would have a caffeine, one of these energy drinks like every day to wake up. They seem like, oh no, I've got to wake up fast. This is easy.
And I think there are things on the market that are like healthier supplements to give you energy. But caffeine is like it's been around for a long time. We have easy access to it. A cup of coffee in the morning is like a very common regimen for a lot of people. And within a cup of coffee is somewhere between 100 to 200 micrograms of caffeine. But again, it's all about moderation and the amount that you take in. So times that amount by 8, that's a lot of caffeine to be taking into your system. When we think about triggers for stroke, I get asked about this a lot. Our bodies can actually tolerate quite a bit of fluctuation in blood pressure. So a elevation in blood pressure one time, I don't think would trigger a stroke in most people. But, think about that consistent intake over several days or many days, weeks and months, that really, that builds on your system. And that probably over time was what did it for this person.
Yeah, and he came in with what I would think are pretty classic symptoms of a stroke: numbness, weakness on his left side, trouble with balance and movement. Let's talk about some of those symptoms. I do think when it comes to strokes and any type of heart issue, the numbers, knowing your numbers, knowing the signs, super important.
Absolutely. Stroke is a really treatable disease. Of course, even before a stroke happens, there are things we can do for prevention. But once somebody starts developing symptoms of a stroke, we definitely want them to seek medical attention immediately. And it's a little bit tricky because unlike a heart attack where somebody might feel pain, pressure, discomfort, for a stroke, we're actually looking for something that goes missing, like part of your brain is not working. So we're looking for a sudden loss of vision, speech, movement, sensation, like in this person, or balance, especially if it's on one side of the body. Those are signs of a stroke that warrant a 911 call.
Oh my goodness. His blood pressure was 254 over 150.
Super, super high. Yeah. It's an alarming number. And actually, an isolated number like that, we could tolerate briefly, but I worry that his blood pressure was elevated in that range for quite some time. And I think that's what caused the end organ damage of a stroke in him.
Wow. And of course, the normal range 120 over 80, so that everybody knows that and understands why we're both like seeing 254 over 150. talk about the things that can happen in your body due to having a stroke. From the onset, there's, the things that the symptoms or what have you, but like what can a stroke do to you?
Yeah. One of the worst disorders, in my personal opinion. The brain is responsible for so many things. So whatever we can do to keep the brain healthy is my number one prerogative for my patients. But in our stroke patients, you have really permanent injury to the brain. So depending on what area of the brain it affects, somebody could lose sensation like this person did. But you could also lose things like your vision, your speech capabilities, movement, balance. All of these things are functions of the brain. So that's what we're trying to preserve for our stroke patients.
Yeah, and these situations, again, I mean, it's hard to know. I mean, even if a bottle says like, here's what you're consuming, it's hard to kind of compute in your brain how much is too much.
Yeah. Right. And I think keeping a healthy diet it's a full-time job, but it's a lifestyle that I like to encourage in all of our patients, our stroke patients certainly. And so we recommend, a heart healthy diet. So watching your salt intake, your sugar intake, making sure that you're staying hydrated. And I think my number one motto and hopefully the takeaway message for folks out there is to do everything in moderation. Caffeine, again, is part of a lot of people's day to day. But when you're taking in more than, 2, 3, up to 8 in this person's day to day, that's out of the recommended range for sure. And then the other thing about energy drinks, I think was alluded to in the article, was looking for the amount of sugar in those drinks too. That's another substance that can accumulate in our bodies and can be bad for metabolism in the long run.
Yeah, and so often, my doctor even talked to me about this, like people who feel that you're generally healthy, especially if like you love going to the gym, you love working out, things of that nature. But it is so frequent that we like OD on something that seems healthy or that's helping us in the gym or to do what we like to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Every person, every body is a little bit different. So if you're going a little bit out of the range and pushing the boundaries a little bit, I think it's okay, but do consult with your healthcare providers and just make sure that your regimen is something that your body can tolerate. And again, if you're feeling abnormal, more headaches, or certainly if you develop any one-sided symptoms, to get those signs checked out. Everything in moderation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you think that the energy drink industry needs to provide more warnings or bigger labels or anything of that sort? Or, I mean, obviously there is a personal responsibility in this, but what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't think it's very tightly regulated, and I think for the general population, people can tolerate a drink, 2 drinks, but perhaps highlighting the caffeine content in there and saying what is a recommended amount, as well as the sugar content. I think that would be a good idea, maybe clearer labeling on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anything else that you think that we should take from seeing instances like this?
Yeah, I think, again, just making sure that your regimen is, whether it's diet or activity or hydration, making sure that it is within a recommended amount and that you're moderating your activities and your intake, and keeping in mind the different mechanisms that these substances can affect our bodies, whether it's high blood pressure or heart arrhythmias or sugar levels. Just being keen on those symptoms, especially around the holidays when we tend to overindulge.
Very good point about the holidays. Thank you so much, Dr. Fan. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
All right, you take care and happy holidays. It's 1:46 right now. Very interesting conversation there. And it's also important to know, ladies, that our symptoms can look different from a man for stroke. So make sure you get up to date on that information in terms of the symptoms and knowing your numbers when it comes to stroke and heart health awareness. All right, everybody. So we're going to go from health to jobs. When we come back, we're no longer talking about job hugging. In the new year, it's going to be all about job hopping. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. In 2025, we definitely had conversations about people holding on to their jobs a little bit longer because of economic uncertainty. People didn't want to jump to something new, not knowing could that be a long-lasting part of their career? Could it end quite abruptly? But apparently for 2026, job hopping is going to be heating up. And in fact, 4 in 10 Chicago workers will be job searching. It's according to the study here. Technology hiring and consulting expert Thomas Vick is a senior regional director at Robert Half in Chicago. Thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So did you hear about, pay attention to, give any attention to the job hugging trend?
We definitely did. Absolutely. I mean, it was something that we saw this year. It was job hugging. The other term that was used a lot was the big stay. Now we're starting to see the big stay give way to the big thaw, and that people are more open to looking at jobs as they start to feel more certain about the economy and feel more comfortable with where it is right now.
Ooh, the big thaw. Hard to think about thawing when we're going into such a frigid weekend, but I'll try to keep on that note. So tell me a little bit more about what the survey found here.
Yeah, I think what it found is that based on the new data that we looked at in July, and it was about 12% fewer people. Now almost 40% of people are willing to look at it. And I think really what that is they're looking at better pay, better benefits, better perks, possibly even a better work environment, being hybrid or whatever it might be. So there's more people out there that are willing to look at other opportunities because they think that there might be a better situation out there. And they're feeling more certain about the economy and where it is right now and where it's going.
Is the grass always greener mentality, though, not risky?
Yes, it can be very risky. And the thing that we recommend is always do your research up front. Know what the job market is, know what your worth is going out into the job market, what you should command, what the average benefits look like. It's really about doing the research on the front end and even using an agency like a Robert Half to better understand what the job market looks like and what you should expect.
What are some of the hot jobs or industries?
We're seeing a lot right now with technology. Anything related to AI, we're seeing, obviously, that's a hot topic right now. I think everybody hears about AI daily. So anything related to AI, but we're also seeing accounting and finance. We're seeing legal positions becoming more and more in demand and starting to see people look at other opportunities and even administrative opportunities as well. So it's really across the board, but a lot in that accounting and finance and technology space.
I can understand that. And what would be your advice to like college students? One, college students who are maybe seniors getting ready for the job market, and then two, college students who are trying to find a major. Like, what do you think is going to be what they need to be looking at?
Yeah, again, I would make sure they're really doing their research. What are those skill sets that are in high demand right now? How can they differentiate themselves through an internship, through even doing a contract assignment with, again, an agency like a Robert Half, just to gain that experience, anything they can do to differentiate themselves from those others that are going to be graduating, but also gain skills and knowledge that are going to help them, whether that's AI or whatever else it might be. That's going to be absolutely crucial for them, as well as just doing the research and knowing what are those positions and what is the knowledge that's needed in the market at this time is crucial.
Yeah, and there has to be like a generational component to this, no?
I mean, to some extent, there is. Obviously, the thing that we recommend is these people are coming out of college right now is just really understanding, what is the current work environment look like? We've seen more people go back into the office. Some individuals have been completely remote with their studies. And so it's just understanding what the work environment is compared to what they've been used to and how do they get themselves comfortable from that perspective if they're not comfortable in a fully in office or a mostly in office type of environment.
Some people would look at it as a younger generation not being as loyal.
We haven't seen that. That's not something that we've seen so far. I think there's, that reputation is out there. I think that's a little bit unfair. We certainly don't have any research necessarily that shows that. And the research that we did really shows across the board, across generations, that all parts of the employees out there and the workforce is willing to look at other opportunities despite whatever generation it might be.
Yeah. So let's talk about the biggest challenges. If you're a job seeker, what should you be concerned about?
The biggest challenge right now is there's more competition for jobs. There's still a number of jobs out there, but it's become easier than ever before for individuals to apply for jobs. So you think about where AI has created some efficiencies. One of those is people's ability to go out and apply for several more jobs than what they used to. So one of the big challenges is that they're in competition with a number of other people that are applying for that job, some of which may not be qualified, but the ease of applying, they went ahead and did it anyway. So that's certainly a challenge, as well as just the perfect skills match. I think there is some challenges with employers still having very high expectations when they're hiring and being a little bit more cautious about hiring and taking a little bit longer. So that creates a little bit of a challenge as well.
How do you think employers will shift their strategies, meet the moment of the talent pool being willing to move around?
We're already seeing them get more competitive. We're seeing them get more competitive with compensation. We're seeing them get more competitive with the work environment and flexibility from that perspective with benefits. I think they're understanding you still have very low unemployment, especially you look at technology, accounting, and finance, there's very low unemployment numbers still. And so it's remained a competitive candidate environment. And so with that, they've already had to be competitive. Now, with more people willing to look, they're having to do more to retain the staff that they currently have, as well as attract that top talent that they're looking for.
That's an interesting perspective. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about Robert Half. If people don't know about Robert Half, tell us about it.
So Robert Half is the largest and oldest specialized staffing firm. We've got close to over 300 offices worldwide. So we've been doing this for a very long time. And we've got a lot of great resources as to, like I said, when it comes to doing the research, we have salary guides and other things that are very important to both employees and employers, really help them be prepared in the market. And we really are a leader in that market, in the hiring market and the staffing industry.
Are there some other trends that people should know about going into the new year that you all are watching?
I think, obviously AI is a big topic right now. I think everywhere you go, people are talking
Mm-hmm.
about AI. And one of the things that we're really cautioning people on, and MIT did some research that 95% of AI projects have failed. And so what we're really cautioning people on is using AI, be it from a company perspective or a candidate perspective. You can't fully take that human element out, and it really has to be there. And so we're really looking at those trends and cautioning people from that perspective. And then again, continuing to see the trend that companies are getting more and more competitive when it comes to retaining their staff, because they are seeing that more are willing to move. Those are two trends that have started, and we expect to increase as they go.
Well, we certainly hope that the companies pick up on, better benefits and things of pay and things of that nature, kind of noting that they want to keep their staff and keep morale high and things of that nature. Where can people find your guide and more information?
Absolutely. If you go to roberthalf.com, we have all of our information on there. They can also, on the website, request that someone reach out to them and guide them through it. Our salary guide in particular has a lot of information, as it's meant to be relevant for a number of different people across, all aspects of organizations, and we can really help walk you through that in a 15 or 20-minute meeting to what's relevant. We've also got a lot of other thought leadership and white papers that are beneficial to where the market is today and helping when it comes to hiring and retaining staff.
Is there a particular time of the year that's better than others to job hop or to job seek?
Yeah, that's a question I've had throughout the years. There's not. I mean, there's not one time that's better than another. I think it really just comes down to what is your skill set? What is the demand of that skill set at this time? I mean, we have people that we're working with right now that need to get positions filled that are in extremely high demand, and they're going to be working through the Christmas break and New Year's to make sure they get that position filled. So I really think it comes down to more what is the demand for that particular role at this
Mm-hmm.
time, knowing that up front and being prepared as to, again, what the market's dictating when it comes to that particular area.
Yeah, great advice. All right. Thank you so much. Wonderful chatting with you today, Thomas.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Take care. Happy holidays.
You
1:58,
too.
everybody. We'll be back with our 2 o'clock hour, and I'll set you up with what to expect between 2 and 3. We're now in the 2 o'clock hour of Chicago Live, everyone. Thanks so much for those of you all who are staying with us, and for those of you all who are just joining us right now online. We've kind of been on a health kick today, and so we're going to stay on that with a couple of stories that we're going to talk through the conversations that we'll have in this hour. One about sunscreen, a new environmental group that's coming out with more information as a milestone is now reached today that could finally bring U.S. consumers, this is according to it, access to the type of modern, more effective sun protection used abroad for decades. We'll talk more about what the FDA is now proposing here. And then also, we're going to talk about measles being on the rise. That's where we're going to start this hour. And just know before we end the hour, we've got to talk about the weather outside. It's the holiday season, so I'm going to use this term. It's going to get a little frightful over the next couple of days in terms of the temperature. So one of our meteorologists is going to come up and get us up to date on what to expect with so many great things that are happening outside in Chicago and beyond this weekend as we celebrate the holidays around here. Nothing like the holidays in Chicago, but it is going to be quite frigid this weekend. Dangerous cold that we'll be talking about soon. But let's get on to the conversation about measles being on the rise right now. Several recent outbreaks that we've been talking about over the last several months here. Cases are going up. There are alarm bells that are ringing for so many health experts. And Dr. David Nguyen is back with us. He's with Rush University Medical Center. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for allowing us to circle back around with you.
Thank you for having me to discuss this very important topic. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And before we get into it, I just want to set from the outset, is it Nguyen or Win?
Win.
Win. Okay, thank you. I had a good friend with the same spelling, and it was Nguyen, but we also have someone with the spelling here at the station, and it's Win. So I wanted to get on top of that. All right, so Dr. Nguyen, what's your take on these recent outbreaks that we're seeing throughout the country? We've even had here in Illinois of measles.
My take is that it's really tragic in the sense that this is very preventable, and this is most likely or undoubtedly linked to decreased rates of vaccination in this country against measles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Expound on that, because we have, and we talked to you about, even the new pediatric advisories that were coming out, and a lot of this, there's like vaccine hesitancy that affects everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this has been going on for many years now, but it's certainly become more of, I suppose, an issue in the more recent years for probably various reasons. A few years ago with COVID, probably people were having trouble following up with primary care doctors and even kids and making sure they got their vaccinations. There's increased ability to try and not get recommended vaccinations in this country, and so there's all kinds of factors leading to that. I and my colleagues and other people in this kind of space, we continue to try to do our best to reach the public on the importance of these vaccinations, and I think these outbreaks this year have really just highlighted how necessary these vaccinations are.
Mm-hmm. So measles, of course, highly contagious but preventable. Talk a little bit about the symptoms. What should people look for? What says that, this is measles, since a lot of people haven't seen it before because of the vaccine status years ago?
Yeah. Well, measles, like you said, measles is extremely contagious. The number, for a person exposed to a case of measles, one person who has measles may go on to infect 12 to 18 other people with measles. And the real difficulty with that is in the first 4 or 5 days, before you have the very characteristic rash that might make you think of measles, you have very nonspecific symptoms: fever, runny nose, cough. It seems like a cold, but in that time you are very infectious, and so that person has an opportunity to spread the virus to other people in those few days. And so um, I mean, it's important to recognize measles by the very characteristic rash that usually starts on the head or face and starts to kind of spread down. But like I said, for a few days beforehand, it's not very specific at all. It looks like a cold,
Do you get
and
it
that's
from,
part of the trouble.
yeah, do you get it from skin to skin contact, in the air? How do
Yeah,
you get
sorry.
it?
Yeah, it's spread by the air. I mean, I'm sure if you like are in direct contact with somebody too, like skin to skin, it can spread, but it's definitely spread through the air, and it even can linger in the air for a couple hours after a person leaves the room.
Which is why, we've seen like some instances where someone has traveled. You've been through an airport, and
Yep.
you get to your next place, but then there's concern about all the people you were around in the airport and on your way to the next place that you ended up.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the major ways that measles has been brought about. And since 2000, measles was declared eliminated in our country, which means that most of the cases that we do see since then are brought in from people traveling from other areas of the world. But the United States is on track to lose that status because the spread is continuing within the country for so long. And if you haven't heard, our neighbors in North Canada just recently lost their elimination status for measles.
Wow. If you do come in contact with someone who is infected, when you say that they could infect up to 18 other people,
Mhm.
are all of those other people unvaccinated as well? Or if you come in contact with someone who has measles but you've been vaccinated, you should be okay?
Yeah, that's a good point. For people who are vaccinated are generally okay. They're protected if they've gotten two vaccine doses. According to the recommended schedule, they should be okay. Usually we don't even really recommend that many other kinds of interventions for those people. But the people who are vulnerable are the people who are unvaccinated, and or maybe even immunocompromised, even if they were vaccinated previously, but maybe they have some condition currently that leaves their immune system weak, such as chemotherapy for cancer or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you talk about the fact that in the beginning it can come off like a cold, a lot of people look at COVID very similarly and say like, I beat colds my entire life. Why should I be concerned about this? How bad can the measles get?
Yeah. So measles can kill people, as we have unfortunately seen there in the Texas outbreak this year. There's been a death or two deaths rather, as I understand it. So it can kill people. And then one thing I think people don't appreciate about measles is that it weakens your immune system even, for months after you've gotten it. So you're vulnerable to other infections afterwards, which could, also land you in the hospital if serious enough, or affect you in other ways.
Is it more susceptible, or are people who are young or old more susceptible, or is it the immunocompromised?
All of the above, as far as people who do worse measles, and kind of all because of the immunity issues. The very young may have weaker immune systems. The very old may have weaker immune systems, and then yes, the people who may be on either a condition or a medicine that might weaken their immune system. Like chemotherapy for cancer is the one example I always use. That those could leave you vulnerable, yes, to measles.
And do you tend to see it in certain demographics than others?
Yeah, if I understand your question correctly, if you mean like certain, like socioeconomic status or race, not really. I mean, if you're individually at risk because of the things we just talked about, measles will affect you. It doesn't really care about, class or race or anything like that. It's very infectious, and it can affect people of all walks of life.
Is there a seasonal component to it?
No, it's year round.
Okay. And what are the recommended schedules for this? Walk us through, the early stages of life through however long you need to get these shots. What are the recommendations as of right now?
Sure. As of right now, for children right now, they usually get their first measles shot as part of an MMR, about 12 months of life. And then and that gives you about 93%, efficacy of protection against measles. And a small number of people may not respond to that. And so there is a second dose of MMR between ages 4 and 5 of life. Anybody who, for whatever reason, hasn't gotten a measles vaccine, before, unless they were, old enough to actually have gotten measles, like, when they were younger in the 60s, or um, before the measles vaccine was created, then they don't, but if people are younger than that, they haven't gotten the measles vaccines, they should get 2 doses, given usually 4 weeks apart.
In the case of several of the outbreaks, it's happened in communities that are strictly religious, or their religion strictly forbids vaccines of this sort. Is there anything else that could help you prevent measles?
No. I mean, like, there might be some measures you can take, like avoiding people and stuff like that, but those are obviously not as good as getting the vaccine itself.
Yeah. And be it that you are in a hospital setting right now, are there any other things that you're seeing a lot of right now?
You mean as far as infections
Mm-hmm.
go? This is the respiratory season, and we're starting to see an increase in flus, RSV, COVID cases, and that's partially like just kind of anticipated just because of the season and people getting in closer quarters with the weather and all that. But I, that's kind of expected.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us. I hope that it helped some folks out.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And again, it's very important for folks who, if you don't know, to find out if to find out if you have gotten the measles vaccination. It's the best way to prevent getting measles.
All right. Thank you so much. Happy holidays to you. In case I don't talk to you again before they actually arrive.
Thank you. All
Okay.
right.
All right. It's about 2:15, everyone. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll talk about some new guidance from the FDA regarding sunscreen. Welcome back, everyone. It's about 2:18 right now, and the FDA is working to modernize what they call an outdated sunscreen marketplace and encourage innovation now. So they've reached a milestone today, and I want to bring in Dr. David Andrews, who is the acting chief science officer for the Environmental Working Group, to talk a little bit about this new day when it comes to sunscreen. Thank you so much for your time.
Sure, and a pleasure to be here. As you just said, this is actually one of the biggest developments in the sunscreen space in over a decade, and the FDA has actually not approved any new ingredients in decades. And so what this represents is the potential for sunscreen improvement for everyone in the country. And in particular, this new ingredient would offer non-mineral sunscreens to have much greater UVA protection, less potential for absorption into the body, and less potential for health harms. Mm-hmm. So this is actually something that we've been suggesting the agency move forward with since at least 2019, so many years.
Wow. So your hard work now paying off here. Tell me the name of this ingredient. I know you're an expert in the field. I'm looking at it like, what? How do you pronounce that?
Yes, many of these sunscreen ingredients have complicated names. This is bimotrizanol. The important part is this is a new ingredient. It's used across the world, really, and has been for over a decade. It offers much better UVA protection than many of the ingredients on the market, and it doesn't absorb into the skin. So this really could significantly improve sunscreens across the marketplace in the United States.
So why are we behind the rest of the world on this?
That's a great question. Part of this is a mixture of factors between the FDA wanting safety data to ensure that these ingredients aren't being absorbed into our body and causing harm, the sunscreen manufacturers being slow to provide that safety testing data or unwilling to provide that safety testing data, and a little back and forth there. So the sunscreen market has really been stuck in a place where we're using ingredients that were approved decades ago that actually don't look even as good from a safety perspective or an efficacy perspective as some of these new ingredients, like this one that the FDA has proposed adding.
And once the FDA has this type of moment, how quickly do these industries or do these companies have to move product that reflects it?
That's a great question. So in sunscreens, these are once this is a proposal. The proposal would have to be finalized, and then sunscreen manufacturers would have the option of including this ingredient in their formulations. So it's quite possible that we are at least a year or 2 years out from seeing new formulations on the marketplace that would include this ingredient. But that being said, it is a significant change to what has been the status quo for decades.
Why just an option instead of it being mandatory if it's something that could actually safeguard a lot of people?
Great question. So for sunscreen formulations, the FDA has approved over a dozen active ingredients, and they're formulated in different ways to provide different levels of SPF protection. There's a number of products. Many of the ones we recommend are formulated with mineral-based ingredients, so zinc oxide or titanium dioxide. We think those are top choices currently for consumers, but there is a portion of the marketplace where those sunscreens don't work very well for them. Either they're too whitening or difficult to rub into the skin. And so this is really providing greater options for formulators to make sunscreens that work for everyone, because we know it is an important tool to reduce overexposure to the sun.
So who really gets it right when it comes to this stuff elsewhere in the world? Like who are we modeling this after?
That is a complicated question. There are many more ingredients available to formulators in Europe, Southeast Asia, Asia in general, and even Australia. And part of that is sunscreens are regulated differently in the United States, and the FDA has an incredibly high standard for bringing new ingredients on the market. The problem is that standard hasn't been applied to ingredients that are currently in use, And so in this case, this is an example of an ingredient that looks much better overall than what we're currently using. And so we're really welcoming this proposal as hopefully the first step in really modernizing U.S. sunscreens.
So you are with the Environmental Working Group, and I'm listening to your reaction to this. Have you seen what the reaction has been from many of the companies that would have to or kind of be put on blast for not you adopting this into their formula?
I haven't seen too much reaction, but overall, I expect a very positive response from the sunscreen industry and the chemical industry in general. We've worked with companies, we've worked with the FDA to try to modernize sunscreens, and this is a direction that I think everyone agrees that we need to move the marketplace to make sure that U.S. consumers have safer and more effective products.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's talk about a little bit more about your recommendations as to what's out there right now. Where do your recommendations stand?
Sure. Every year we publish a sunscreen guide at ewg.org that evaluates all of the sunscreens on the market for both their effectiveness as well as the ingredient safety and potential health hazards from those ingredients. Our top products are primarily formulated with zinc oxide and also some with titanium dioxide. That's a sunscreen active ingredient that is very effective at providing broad spectrum protection. So this is both UVA rays that cause or potentially increase the risk of cancer, long-term skin aging, wrinkles, as well as sunburn protection. And the mineral ingredients they don't absorb through the skin. And so there's much less potential for health harm.
And what are the things or products that are out there that you would say avoid?
There's a number of products formulated with concerning ingredients, such as oxybenzone or retinol palmitate. In particular, oxybenzone is approved active ingredient. It readily absorbs through the skin, and actually FDA did testing to show just how much absorbs through the skin. And exposure has been associated with a number of health harms. In particular, concerns about endocrine disruption and impacting hormone levels. Mm-hmm. And while the science isn't completely settled on exactly how much exposure causes this harm, we think it's a significant concern and reason for consumers to seek out alternatives.
Yeah. And what are some of the common misleading marketing claims that are out there?
We suggest that consumers stick with SPF 50 or lower products, which might come as a surprise. Those higher SPF products are incredibly popular. But what we've seen in our research on sunscreens is that those products are often provide less balanced protection. And more concerningly, they often give users a false sense of security where they may think that if they apply it once, they're good for the entire day. And sunscreens have been shown to be really effective when people apply them and reapply them regularly.
Let's get to the basis of all of this. Yeah, you touched on it a little bit there. Let's talk about the importance of sunscreen itself, and then how often you need to apply it, those types of things. Like, just let's go base level with this.
Base level is you don't want to be overexposed to the sun. We know that damaging sunburns, especially damaging sunburns early in childhood, are linked to increased risk of skin cancer. And so sunscreen is a tool for reducing overexposure to the sun. But it's a tool along with t-shirts, wearing a hat, covering up, and avoiding spending long periods of time in the sun during the middle of the day, if at all possible. And so so we think sunscreens are important. People should use sunscreens, but use it along with t-shirts and hats and other sun protection strategies.
Mm-hmm. And how often and how much?
So you should be applying a significant amount of sunscreen, especially if you're covering your whole body. The general recommendation is 1 ounce to 1.5 ounces and reapplying every 2 hours or after you go into the water.
Okay, so that's base level. High level is learning bemotrizanol. We learn something new every day, but we'll be looking for that active ingredient and to see whether it makes it into the products that we see on the shelves very soon.
Yep, we're hopeful, and we think this is an important step for the FDA, and hopefully it really ushers in a new era of sunscreens and sun protection in the United States.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. Happy holidays to you.
Same to you.
All right.
Have a great day.
Same. 2:28. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. 2:31 right now, and you can see our own pair of shots. Political reporter is up here, ready to go. Happy Friday to you.
Friday got the casual Friday look.
We both do.
I love the denim. That is
well,
looking
thank
good.
you. It was Orange Friday, so we're getting ready for a Bears win,
ready.
hopefully,
You're ready.
This weekend. So got to do something to be ready for it.
Right.
You have been covering so many different topics this week when it comes to politics in our state and beyond. One of the things that just took place today was that the governor signed into law the Right to Die bill. Tell us a little bit about that bill, and then we'll move forward into the conversation you had with the woman who is really the reason for it.
Well, the proponents call it Right to Die or medical aid in dying. The opponents to it say it's physician-assisted suicide. Now, the proponents say don't use that term. That's a loaded term, and that's not exactly what this is. The governor signed it. He said this was a difficult thing to consider. There's a lot of things to consider on all sides, but what it does is it makes Illinois the 12th state in the country that would allow a doctor to assist someone in dying if they choose to die on their own terms and they're terminally ill. Now, there's a ton of rules here and protections, and so the rules are you have to be terminally ill with 6 months to live. You have to get a mental health evaluation. You have to have letters from 2 physicians. And then the physician has to not coerce in any way or else they could face a felony. So they tried to put all these protections in this bill to make it so that it wouldn't be abused. But there are folks that have been wanting this, like you mentioned, the one that I talked to, that say sometimes if you're terminally ill, the notion of, getting sick and dying of this illness can be torturous. And we want to avoid that for ourselves and for our family members. And so that's why they fought for this bill.
Yeah, and it's been a long time coming.
Yeah, years. I mean, and it had stalled for years. And actually, the proponents did not think that this was going to be passed so quickly, but it kind of, under cloak and dagger, passed in the fall veto session a couple months ago with a supermajority, and everyone was surprised, like, oh wow. And we were just looking at the bills that passed. Oh, it's that one. They did this with like little fanfare. And then the governor today eschewed the typical pomp and circumstance of signing a bill and just put out a statement. Because he knows how sensitive this is.
I was going to say, and you would understand why. There were a lot of strong opinions on it.
The Catholic Conference of Illinois, pretty much any religious group is out saying this is assisted suicide. This goes against religious practice. This is not consistent with a culture of life. And one of the cases that the Catholic Conference of Illinois made was that in every state where there is this allowed, that all suicide goes up, they believe. Now, this is data that they're parsing. I don't have that data. But their contention is that it encourages suicide. And if someone might be mentally ill and vulnerable, and they are in a state that has this kind of law, well, maybe they think that they should just commit suicide as opposed to go get help.
It makes a cultural shift.
Maybe it makes a cultural shift, which is, again, why, but the proponents of the bill say, look, you have to be terminally ill. You have to have 6 months to live. Not anyone that says, oh, well, I'm dying and I don't want to live anymore. No, you can't go be a part of this then. You have to be terminally ill and have a mental health evaluation. So if it's mental health that's making you want to die, then no, you cannot go be a part of this. And that's where I think as a society we still believe that people need to have help, if it's a mental illness. This is if you have cancer, if you have some disease ravaging your body, and you have been told you're terminal.
And the woman who was maybe the biggest fighter behind all of this, what was her condition?
Deborah Robertson. She suffered from a very rare form of blood cancer, and she's told it's terminal. She's had multiple rounds of chemotherapy, immunotherapy, everything. She's weak, and now she told me, I spoke with her recently, and she basically said she's still kicking, she's still alive. She's thrilled that this has passed, but she said, I don't know that I want to use it yet because I'm still trying to live. I'm still trying to fight. I didn't fight for this so that I could just, boom, go take this and die. I just wanted to make sure this option was there for me and others like me. If it gets to the point where this disease will make me, it would be torture to live with. I want to be able to die on my own terms. I want my family to see me a certain way. But she, and it has to be a really difficult decision. She doesn't want to make that decision, she said. But she knows that she has watched other people die with this, and she saw how painful it was. And that's why she said, I don't want that to be me when it gets to that. I want to be able to avoid that. Let me take a pill. Let me go be with my family and say, this is how I want to go.
And is there choice around, how is it it is a pill for this to happen, or is there choice even in that?
No, realm? It's a pill. From what I understand, it's a couple of pills, and again, you need 2 doctors to prescribe them, to agree to prescribe them. And it's a pill. It's painless. It's peaceful, and I don't know what the time frame is from when you take it, and I don't know the medical, jargon around it. I mean, I don't know how it shuts your system down, but it does so in a, I guess the way you would, when you go put your pets down, they're painless. You're supposed to be at peace, and so that's the idea here. But there is pushback to it.
There was a lot of pushback to it. So very complicated journey that bill had, but now signed into law. What were some of the other big stories that you covered this week that you think will still be talkers moving forward?
I think that a really interesting one is the Federal Transit Administration that wrote this letter to the CTA.
Yes.
saying you got to do something about crime or we're going to withhold all this federal money. I mean, that would be tough if we don't get this money. Now, the governor says this is an illegal shakedown. They can't do this.
And they have deadlines of
They
like the
have deadlines Monday.
15th, the 18th.
So they have to get back and respond by Monday, and I'm told the city will respond. But they're consulting with their law department to figure out how. So I'm going to be interested to see on Monday what that response is going to be and how the Trump administration takes that.
Yeah.
And then we've got, this ongoing budget battle.
The ongoing battle.
Just never
and
gonna
they
end.
have to get something done by the end of the month.
Yeah. And they're going to have a meeting every day next week, a city council meeting. So it's hilarious. They had a city council meeting this week, and they voted not on the budget, but they voted on having 4 meetings next week so that they maybe could vote on the budget then when they can, get together and come up with something.
But if you think about the government shutdown, one of the biggest points of contention, there were many, one of the biggest points of contention during the government shutdown was like, who's not coming to work during it?
Yeah.
That these lawmakers who have said, essentially they can't come to an agreement on something.
Right.
We're still getting paid, but not coming to work during
Right.
the government shutdown.
Right.
So maybe this is a lesson learned for these elected officials to say, hey, as long as we're at least coming to work, trying to work something out,
Right.
maybe it's worth us like every day
Yeah.
coming, even if
No.
at the end we say we don't have an agreement.
Well, and politics is part of this. So you've got, the mayor really wants to enact this corporate head tax and go out and pitch himself as the guy that made the rich, the ultra rich, pay for things that we need as a city. But the opposition says, it's a jobs killer. He's soaking business. He's soaking jobs. If we don't have jobs, we don't have any revenue coming in. And so those are the two camps here. And it would be foolish to think there aren't interests behind this. So like on the mayor's side, the CTU has been very heavily out there supporting him. And business groups, the Chamber of Commerce and the Civic Federation have been out there leading the charge against it.
Yeah.
And so those are the two camps. And right now, it doesn't look like either side's going to have enough.
But there's like 27 alders
There's 27
now?
that have signed on to the alternative forms of revenue that the opponents want. Does that mean they will for sure vote? I don't know. The mayor could pick off a couple of those people. This is where we're seeing the arm twisting. This is where, hey, when you
The
see
closed door.
when you see a nice new field house pop up in someone's ward and park district, brand new, gleaming and beautiful basketball court and pool, you might know why, because he's trying to buy some votes. And this is happening. So he could pick off some votes and get a majority. The thing is, he doesn't have a veto-proof majority, or they don't. So if they oppose this, they would still need 34 people to override his veto. So I would say the mayor has the upper hand in that sense. He just has to pick off a couple and say, and I think what he's banking on is by the time the deadline draws near and the people feel the squeeze, like, okay, are we going to hold out and shut this whole city down for the
Right.
first time ever, or let's just pass a budget?
That's the biggie.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, going back to the government shutdown, it does come to a point right before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
When all these people have plans to fly to different destinations and you don't have TSA that's, getting everyone where they need to be, and you have shutdowns, in terms of airports that are having some effects, right before that squeeze, you start to think about like, okay, who's going to look bad in the end?
Well, that's the other part of it. And so the opponents have polling that they did that indicates they believe that people will blame the mayor if the city shuts down. So the mayor is the one that has a lot to lose, and they don't have to budge. And that makes sense. I mean, in the shutdown, usually you blame the executive, the person that you don't know your alderman typically. You don't know. The average Chicagoan can't name 4 aldermen. And I'm not
like
blasting
you might know
that.
the
It's just-
one for your
you
neighborhood,
might know the one
your
for your
area,
neighborhood.
right?
So you're not going to blame alderman X, Y, and Z. You're going to blame the mayor.
Sure.
Ultimately he's responsible. In most federal shutdowns, the people blame the president. It's usually always both sides think they're going to get a political advantage, and yet the president usually wears the jacket. And so this would be similar. I think the mayor would probably wear the jacket, and so that might give him impetus to move off. And that's the game of chicken that's going on.
Yeah.
And so our new reporter, Brett Bugansky, is doing a report on this today.
The effects of a possible
What
shutdown.
happens during a shutdown? If you didn't hear the question from producer Jim Selly, the Wood Streets and Sand shutdown. Here's the thing. Nobody knows the answer. The mayor doesn't know the answer.
Because it's never happened
It's
before.
never happened. The law department. What I've been told is the law department is doing this research right now to figure out what exactly happens. Does this mean we get a blizzard and sorry, your streets aren't going to get plowed? That would be a disaster for the mayor, and people would blame the mayor. We know that. We have a history of that here. Would that happen? I don't know. Or do they have? Or is it like the TSA? Well, we really would like you to go to work. You'll get paid eventually. You're not going to get paid, but you still got to come to work.
Back pay.
Maybe that's what's going to happen. Or they're all kind of discussing whether they can be like Congress and pass just some standalone spending bills for a couple months.
Yeah.
And keep things running. We don't know.
Yeah.
Nobody knows the law on this yet. They're figuring this out as we speak.
I'm sure there are some lawyers feverishly working to try to find that out.
Yeah.
Because that will nudge too.
Yeah. Because we don't have like a city constitution, a city charter that says, in the event that you can't agree to a budget, this happens. There's just nothing there. So it's all uncharted territory. So my guess is, yes, they would try to pass some spending resolutions. All right, here's some funding directly for CPD. Like, you want to pay CPD.
Yeah.
So I think that'd be the first thing they would do is say, like, we're going to pass a 3-month spending resolution that funds the police. Okay? And then maybe streets and sand is next. We're going to pass a bill that funds streets and sand. Everything else. And then they have legal obligations to pay pensions, retiree pensions and stuff. They're going to have to fund that.
And that keeps coming back up too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We're all in uncharted
Wait and see
territory.
mode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's going to be, Merry Christmas, everybody. While you're out Christmas shopping, we have to worry about whether the city's going to deliver some Christmas cheer.
Yeah, or whether all of them get coal for Christmas. Yeah, right.
Right now,
Lumps
they all
of coal.
deserve coal.
Yeah.
They have one job.
One
If they don't do
job.
anything else all year, they have to pass a
Get
budget.
the budget passed.
To
right.
have city running, it's the one thing they have to do. And they can't do it.
When will we see you again for Chicago Report?
Monday. Monday, we got some good stuff brewing for Monday. We've got there. One of the things we're working on Monday is there's this debate over self-driving, Ubers, and whether we should. A couple cities have had a pilot program now. Should we bring them to Chicago?
Very interesting.
I know everyone's all like, the things that go on the sidewalks, the little.
Yes.
That's a big debate, but now should we expand it to self-driving cars?
Ooh.
Yeah, so we'll look at that on Monday.
Okay, good conversation to have.
Yep.
All right, thank you, Paris.
Always
have a great
pleasure,
weekend.
Nita. You too.
All right, 2:45. We'll be right back, everyone, with Mark Strell. Got to talk about this weather outside. 2:48. We're back giving you a live look outside right now. And when you look out at the lakefront, you know, it just looks like a
Looks like Alaska, doesn't it?
Day,
except for the tall buildings.
But we're getting ready for the real tumble of temperatures to take place. We've gone from the, it's cold, to no, a dangerously cold temperatures that we're expecting for the weekend.
It goes from the, it's cold, to the, it's cold. Yeah, your voice goes up a couple of octaves, I think. Yeah.
Like the minute you step outside.
Yeah. You know, it's kind of funny because we live in a place where the weather hurts our face. You know, you open up and it's like,
anything exposed.
Yeah, exactly. We've got teens coming up this weekend, teens on Saturday, teens on Sunday, and we've got temperatures in the lower teens on Sunday, which means most of the day will be spent in the single digits.
Oof. And when you talk about Sunday, of course, it's the Bears and the Browns.
The
so there
Bears.
will be thousands of people out at Soldier Field.
Do you think they're going to show up?
I think they will show up.
We're pretty hardy around here. But look at that temperature on Sunday, 12. That may be a little bit generous.
Wow.
Most of the suburbs are going to be in the single digits. We've got 0 for overnight low temperatures Saturday night and into Sunday. Again, most of the suburbs are going to be well below 0. And with a little bit of wind, we are going to see wind chill factors easily in the teens to 20s below 0. We could even hit 30 degrees below 0 for one of the coldest Bears games ever. Chance of some snow. Nothing really too major at this point on Saturday. And then we start to warm up. So this is kind of a 2-day visit over the weekend. And we make it back up into the 20s on Monday. Back on Tuesday, close to average. Our average is in the upper 30s, believe it or not. You know, here we are middle of December, pushing middle of December, upper 30s. And then we go beyond that, 44 degrees on Wednesday and 48 on Thursday. We're going to melt some of that snow.
Well, you know you've been cold when the 40s, the 30s and the 40s look like the promised land.
A little break, right?
Yeah.
A big break.
Yeah. And it's very rare that we look beyond the weekend when we're right upon the weekend, when we're thinking like, we finally made it. And we're like, let's look past the weekend and see what's let's go and look to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah, what's on the other side of that freezer door? It's a tropical vacation.
You mentioned the colder Soldier Field games, and they did produce a list for us. I want to go over some of these, and let's just talk through them here. So these were the top 10 coldest Soldier Field games. There's number 10, 12 degrees on December 19th, 2004 versus Houston. -7 wind chill.
Ooh,
You
piece
remember
of cake.
that game?
Oh, I was there, yeah.
Okay, number 9, 11 degrees on December 23rd, 1990 versus Tampa Bay, and it was a -1 wind chill.
I love it when teams like Tampa Bay and Houston come into play, you know, in temperatures like this, because there's I want to go home.
Immediate advantage that the Bears are getting on those teams. Okay, number 8, 11 degrees on December 18th, 2016 versus Green Bay, -4 wind chill. Now, you talk about Houston, Tampa Bay. Those are teams that aren't used to it, of course. The Packers are.
Right, they practice and stuff like this, and, you know, and like it.
Kind of part of their repertoire. Number 7, 10 degrees on December 11th, 1977 versus Green Bay, -3 wind chill. Number 6, 10 degrees on December 17th, 1989 versus Green Bay. There's a running theme here. -5 wind chill. Number 5, 9 degrees on December 4th, 2022 versus Buffalo, -12 wind chill.
Still not all that cold. I mean, I would have guessed, if you were to ask me this, 5 weeks ago, what's the coldest? I would have said 20 below, or 18 below, or 16 below.
Well, number 4, -8 degrees on December 9th, 2013 versus Dallas, that you know isn't used to it. And there was a -9 wind chill for that game. Number 3, 4 degrees on January 10th, -4 degrees on January 10th, 1988 versus Washington, and it was a -12 wind chill for that.
That's more like it. 4 below, -12, right?
Number 2, 3 degrees, -3 degrees on December 18th, 1983 versus Green Bay, -15 wind chill. Number 1, -2 degrees on December 22nd, 2008 versus Green Bay, -13 wind chill.
See, again, I would have thought the wind chills would have been down close to 20 degrees below zero because we have that in Chicago enough that, I would have thought that there would have been more games over the history of the Bears that would have been actually colder than this.
I wonder, and of course it kind of goes over the date, but it doesn't say like, okay, if we're looking, these were December,
Yeah.
January. Are we getting, when we get into the -20-ish, typically, is that past maybe the bulk of the football season?
You mean they're already happened, or they're no? We're just getting into it.
No. Yeah. So
Yeah.
typically,
Yeah.
I mean, we're far into the football season now.
Yeah, right.
So like
December, January, that's when we're going to have the coldest temperatures.
maybe it's because most of the football season would have been over by the time we would typically see a -20.
We'd be in January or later in December. Yeah, I mean, it's still, think about it. Our average daytime high temperature right now, 38 degrees. That's pretty warm. Because a lot of times you think of middle December, you look at the Courier and Ives pictures and there's kids skating on the pond. Well, there's nobody skating on a pond at 38 degrees.
Yeah.
This year's a little bit of an anomaly in that we've had so much snow early, but typically, at least statistically, we don't really have the bulk of winter until the end of December, especially into January and the first week or two of February.
Yeah, maybe that's why. I guess for the Bears that went to the Super Bowl in
Yep.
'85, they would have probably gotten some -20 at some point in time. But most of these teams wouldn't have maybe be playing late January into February.
Here's what I'm interested in, and it probably doesn't say on your list. How often do the Bears prevail in those cold games?
Ooh, we need another list
Yeah.
for that. Yeah.
And who is the best cold season team? Now, you and I would probably just say off the top of our heads, Green Bay, Buffalo's probably a good
They
snow
gotta be up there,
team,
yeah.
But
Remember that time when their fans were,
Yeah.
were scooping the snow off
Yep.
of the seats, Buffalo's fans, before they went into the stadium?
well, that was Green Bay this last weekend. Yeah.
It's a love.
fun,
That is
fun.
a love.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right? You got to take your shovel to dig out to get to the stadium, and when you get to the stadium, you got to dig out to get to your seat.
To your
right?
seat. Yeah. I think they gave them like an extra something for the work that
Yeah,
they
here's
were
some
doing.
popcorn and a
Yeah.
soda. Sit down, watch the game.
All right. Are we expecting any more precipitation?
Yeah, we've got a little bit of snowfall coming Saturday, tomorrow, 75% chance, but there's nothing really too major coming our way. And then after that, like I said, look at that. We warm back up and we stay dry.
Forever.
Yeah, well, at least till the end of the 7-day forecast.
All right, Mark. Thank you so much. Anything else that we need to have top of mind? And for people, and I know that there are warming centers that are going to be open over the weekend, everyone. So make sure you check on your neighbors, check on the seniors. Think about the unhoused. Let them know where the
Right.
warming shelters are going to be, the warming centers where they're going to be. But are there things that people need to keep in mind? Like, let's say they're going out to Chris Kendall Market or going out to the game. If you're going to be out for like 1, 2, maybe 4 hours,
Yeah.
what do you need to keep in mind?
Well, the key is, and we all know this in Chicago, layer up. Dress in layers and keep your skin covered up.
How
no
do you know
flashing.
when something is going wrong?
Well, you start to shiver, and then when it's really going wrong, you don't shiver anymore. And if you have some exposed skin that goes numb and then all of a sudden it looks frosty on your skin, that's a sign of frostbite, and you need to take care of that immediately.
Okay. All right. We have our marching orders. We will get all of the layers together for this weekend and still have some fun. We know that
Layer
there's
up.
plenty of fun to be had in the city. Thank you so much. 2:57 right now, everybody. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. And it's time for our 3 o'clock hour here on Chicago Live. Thank you so much for those of you all who are just joining, and for those of you all who've been riding with us since 1 p.m. In this final hour, let me tell you a little bit about the things that we have coming up for you. It is still jam-packed. We're not, even though it's Friday and everyone's excited to kind of get on with the day, we do have some really important conversations coming up about some really concerning things, first and foremost, that are happening in our communities here. We're going to bring in just a bit the founder of Safely Ever After, who's going to be joining me on the heels of a 14-year-old girl allegedly being abducted on her way to school in Evanston. So many people online are searching for more information about that. Obviously, if you are a parent or a guardian, you're wondering, okay, what happened there? How can I make sure that this never hits our household? I'm glad that this young woman, at least physically, is okay, but we don't want anyone to have to go through that sort of ordeal. So we're going to bring in the founder of Safely Ever After and talk about some rules, some advice, some skills that you can impart upon the young people that you love. So we'll have that coming up. That should be around 3:45 today. We're going to bring in our friends from the Adler Planetarium. They are always a wonderful gem to call upon. There is a meteor shower that's going to be peaking this weekend, and so we've asked them to talk to us about what will be in the holiday night sky that people will be talking about and how you might be able to see it. Also, we're bringing in Congressman Bill Foster in just a bit, right around 3:15, and he's going to be talking about legislation to lower costs for students. That is such a big talker right now when you think about one of the costliest things for people that are just starting out their lives. Student loans, still trying to pay off the education that you just got. It's one of the reasons why a lot of two-year schools are getting, and trade schools are getting more attention these days, because the cost of education is just so high. So we'll talk to him about the legislation that he's now introduced. But first, we want to talk about one of the biggest discussions that's been had over the course of the last month, and that is on people's property tax bills. We have talked with the Cook County Treasurer. We've brought in the Cook County Assessor. We also brought in someone from the Board of Review. And everyone's wondering, what is this? The bills were delayed, and once people actually saw them, they're thinking, how in the world could you have a hike, like a 133% hike that some neighborhoods are seeing, places like Garfield Park that are seeing a 133% hike, North Lawndale, just how are you getting 3-digit hikes that quickly? And what can you do about it, most importantly? Well, I want to bring in Jim Thompson. He is the Director of Property Assessment and Tax Policy in the Cook County Office of the President, so that we could talk a little bit about this P-Tax, or Property Tax Reform Group, and their new study that's out. Thank you so much for joining me.
Anita, thank you very much for having me. Really happy to be here.
We appreciate it. I think this discussion is so nuanced, and that's why we've tried to bring in all of the voices that we can in terms of how we got here, how we help people through it, and what happens next. So first, just give me your take on the bills themselves.
So, right now I think we're seeing the effect of a system that really hasn't been reformed for more than 50 years. And so this is really the reason why the president wanted to bring all the players together in the property tax system and create this reform group, really to address, I think, what you're talking about, the fairness and equity, in the system. As we said, the reform group consists of the assessor's office, the board of review, the clerk, the treasurer, and we all have the goal of a comprehensive reform and really to create a fair and more equitable system. I think you're seeing really the need to for us to address this as soon as we can, but really as comprehensively and effectively as we can.
Yeah, there were stories of one that stuck out that stuck with me was like an 89-year-old or was a woman a senior in our community who had an $89 bill at one point in time, and it was now over $2,000. And you think about somebody on a fixed income, how do you handle that? If you've seen $89 and then all of a sudden you're seeing this massive difference that needs to be paid like now, that is concerning to say the least. So there's a new independent study that outlines a roadmap. Tell me a little bit about that.
So, just to kind of speak about the reform group, and we can get into this study. We are looking at all these issues individually, but then comprehensively as well. So this is a study that is on the property tax incentive program that we have for businesses. One of the really important things that we can do in property tax reform is that if we grow the base, if we create economic opportunity and economic development, that will shift the burden across more people, and that will be a good way to lower people's property tax burden. So this study really takes a look at a program that's been around for a number of years, and it really is an exciting opportunity for the county to kind of fine tune and refocus these tools, which have been really effective, and in not only growing the base but also retaining different businesses.
Yeah. When you speak of growing the base, expound on that a little bit more, because that aspect of a shifting burden from downtown to some of these neighborhoods has been one of the biggest points of contention for so many people.
Yeah, I think that as you have a larger base, especially a more diversified base, not only from in value, kind of horizontally, but vertically from different a growing commercial base, a growing also affordable housing. I mean that's the other thing. We need to grow the housing base as well, because if we have less housing, there's just a simple economics of supply and demand that creates more that creates value in that. So, I think that as the county, we have the opportunity really to use some of these property tax incentives in areas that aren't seeing the economic growth that others are. So, a number of our incentives are focused on the south suburbs, really focused on on retaining commercial and industrial properties, but also growing that base. And I think that was one of the main findings that we had. This is an effective tool, but we can use it. We can really renew the focus on that retention and on that growth in those areas that really need it to create a more diversified base.
Mm-hmm. And when you talk about more housing, one of the voices that we heard from was a group in North Lawndale that has done a lot of building in that community, that has been responsible for new homes going up and trying to change the narrative for the neighborhood. But then the taxes ended up being, it was kind of like a two-edged sword, where you're trying to improve your neighborhood, but then they got taxed on it.
Yeah, I mean that is the system is based on fair market value, and that is a very, very dynamic indicator of value that can go up and down. I think you're really speaking to some of the things that the group needs to focus on, and that is some of these our system is really reliant on these property taxes. So as values go up, it is especially hits properties very hard if your main tax burden, overall is in property tax. So I think one of the goals that we have, and one of the work streams that we're working on, is really how do we address this reliance on property taxes? How do we diversify how we fund vital services? Because in the end, what property taxes fund is very, very important and really can build substantial and great communities.
Sure.
And I think that we all collectively believe that is a good goal to have, but I think we need to rethink how we fund those, and I think that's part of what we're going to be studying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then there is the aspect of business exemptions. Obviously, there are many businesses that aren't doing as well as they were before the pandemic, but at the same time, if they're getting an exemption that the people who own homes, they're like, well, why are they getting such big exemptions and I'm having to foot this huge bill?
Yeah, I mean, it's always, in a fair market value system. I mean, the assessor and kind of everyone doing assessments needs to follow the market. And I think that we are in unprecedented times right now when we look at especially office buildings and those kind of properties where we don't know what the future of that is. We don't know what the future of work is. And I think you're seeing that market and that effect in the assessments. But I think that the main factor, I think I'm going to go back to how we're looking at reform. And that's part of it as well. I mean, having these swings every 3 years in value is not really sustainable. And so I think we need to look at how we value property, but also it kind of goes back to if we can diversify our tax base, I think we can do a better job and we can absorb those changes better.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit more about the things that you all will be looking at, the goals that you have.
Okay, so one of the first studies we did really was on individual property tax relief, and it dealt with homestead exemptions, and those are the kind of exemptions like your homeowner's exemptions, senior freeze, those sorts of exemptions. And we took a look at not only are they effective for individuals, and they are, but also what is the effect on some of the communities, and we found in some communities they're not very effective. So we have been recommending that we use other forms of property tax relief. Recently we did go down to Springfield and we're successful in making some changes, especially around some of those more targeted exemptions, like the senior freeze, which is really, really important. It's an important tool. That household income threshold, which really dictates who is eligible, has not been raised since 2018. And in that time, we've had the pandemic, inflation has gone up, and the cost of living and cost of living adjustments, even around Social Security, have risen to the point that some people who qualified in 2018 aren't qualifying now. So we've set that program. That was something that's really important to us. And then there's some other programs we did. So that was one of the things that we did. But the other thing we've looked at is commercial valuation. Really looking at how the Board of Review and how the assessor value property. Are we doing it to industry standards? What are the practices and procedures of those offices? Are those at industry standards? And what are the recommendations we can make to make changes to get us in compliance with industry standards? So we're in the process of, we had that study come out last year. We're working now with the Board of Review and with the assessor to implement those recommendations and see how they can affect, the fairness, the predictability, and the equity on commercial property. We get those values, closer to right. I think you'll have an effect, throughout the county in a couple different ways. One, you won't see these wild swings, which will affect, obviously residential, but also a more predictable system will entice investment, will entice more building and more economic development, and that's really a goal as well.
What were some surprises to you in the deep dive that you all did? In the commercial valuation, I don't think that there were a lot of surprises over. We have a very complex system, so that was one of the outcomes was that compared to other jurisdictions, we're really we have a much more complex and difficult system than the other ones. The number of appeals, I think, is something that is always surprising. Is Cook County has some of the highest number of appeals in the country, and that's actually the next study we're going to look at. Is like how why do we have this kind of large amount of appeals, and what can we do to maybe have fewer appeals? What can we do to maybe get it right the first time and not have a need for so many appeals? Yeah, and that the appeals were due by today, I believe. Today was the deadline for the appeals to get in, and there were lines of people who were there to appeal the bills that they saw, just looking for some type of relief. Give me an idea of like when we could see some of the things that you all are looking for, the goals that you have actually implemented.
So at this time, we have begun implementing some of the changes to the exemption. As I said, we worked with Springfield. So with that, but with the commercial, with the commercial study, we've already started. We've already made some changes, and to that effect, one of the things we're also doing is we're going to do something called a sales ratio study, which will really measures our performance in assessments and valuation to those industry standards. And we're going to do that every year. So as we make these changes, we will in real time be able to see our improvement. And if we're not seeing improvement fast enough, we'll be able to change and be able to kind of move and react to that, and make this more of an iterative process.
Yeah, I think that would help so much in terms of the transparency of it all, which I see is also another one of your goals here. And just on a final note, it also talks about wanting thoughtful engagement with the municipalities. What type of engagement are you all looking to do in the future?
So specifically with the incentives, there are partners in this incentive program. It's required that the municipality pass an ordinance that says that they want to give this incentive to this business. So I think that what we're finding is that there are better economic development processes in other municipalities. So we're going to start to work with all of those municipalities to make sure that we provide the technical assistance that they need so we can level the playing field for all those municipalities. That's one of the ways we're going to work with them. We're going to understand really how to streamline the system so we can move at the speed of development. So when people want to come in and invest in our communities, that there isn't a long kind of complex process, that we can make it easier and more streamlined so that investment can come faster. So those are some examples of how we're going to work with those stakeholders.
Very interesting. Thank you so much, Jim. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll be looking to see how things go from here. It's 3:16 right now. We'll be right back, everyone. Welcome back, everyone. Just about 3:20 right now. And if there's one thing that can create a generational shift for a person, for a family, but also a hefty financial burden, it's education. And it's a wonderful thing that can also be extremely costly. And so today, Congressman Bill Foster has introduced the No Cost Educational Resources Act. He is joining me now to talk a little bit about it and what it will provide for people from now into the future. Thank you so much for your time.
Good to be back here.
Great having you here. Tell me a little bit about this No Cost Educational Resources Act. Give me the background on it first and foremost.
Sure. Well, this is an issue we've been working on, for most of a decade, and affordability is like the top of everyone's agenda despite, I guess, our president, calling it a fake issue. And really, probably college affordability is at the very top. If you look at the student debt burdens that are landing on so many young kids these days, or even adults. And so this is so a big part of that is college textbooks. And the most recent academic year, the textbook costs are between $1,000 and $1,200 a year. And this is according to a recent study. And it was, so this is a problem. And frankly, kids are doing everything they can to try to get out from under it, buying used books, very often textbooks, which aren't really the right date. They'll buy the older years, and so it's not as good a product. All kinds of things are happening. But what this bill authorizes is to simply say that the library associations, the federal library associations, should be allowed to put out grants for people like retired university professors to make zero-cost online textbooks. And this is something that happens a little bit kind of, by accident. There'll be an enthusiastic retired professor or something. There are a lot of online products that, unfortunately, a lot of them cost a lot of money. But this would be something that would be a no-cost option with really state-of-the-art, highest quality textbooks. That's the idea, and we've been working at it for a while. But now I think with affordability coming to the top of everyone's agenda, I think we may have a chance of getting this across the finish line.
Mm-hmm. What would be the timetable to get it across the finish line?
Well, the grant program could happen as soon as the money is authorized. And, it's complicated because when the Doges came in, one of the things they cut were the budgets of the library associations. And where normally the money would be dispensed from. But I think that they have heard the reaction of the American people to a lot of the Doge cuts, particularly when they go after libraries, which are some of the most sympathetic organizations in our country. You go into any small town, and the library and the post office are sort of the heart and soul of the small town. And Republicans have gone back home and heard that and told the Doges to back off. And we're seeing some real relief that, frankly, earlier this year we weren't counting on for the library assistance budgets. And so this is the sort of thing, as they look to re-expand the budgets of the relevant agencies, that this would be a very reasonable project to add to the scope of business.
Yeah, and I think, for college students and their parents or guardians, whoever's footing the bill of education, they take any help that they can get. Where do you stand, though, on, and this could be like a piece of the pie, continuing to push for loan forgiveness?
Oh, yeah, look, I have been a big backer of loan forgiveness. And one of the big new reasons why it's even more important than it has been is what's happening with artificial intelligence. A lot of kids have gone and done the right thing and got a degree or an advanced degree in a subject, and now you find that artificial intelligence is going to impinge on their job and career prospects. And if you've got a lot of student debt and all of a sudden, there's a piece of software that does your job as well as you hope to, you're in a situation that's not new, in the sense that the farmers and the factory workers have been struggling with technological job displacement for a long time, but it's going up market very rapidly, and so when that happens, it'll be another reason why we have to do something about the debt burden, the college debt burden that's landing on millennials and generations older and younger.
Yeah. On the flip side, the cost of education has also helped, some 2-year colleges or trade schools.
Oh, yeah. No, that's right. Kids, I think, have a much more correct guidance than they've had over the past decades. There are many paths to a comfortable middle-class existence, and they don't all go through college. But if students are going through college, we should do everything we can to, to make the path affordable. And this is what this bill is about, really. And and the interesting thing is that there are a lot of groups, a lot of professors and retired professors who would be very happy to write the textbook they've always dreamed about and make it available as a free online resource. And so you wouldn't need very much money to make a big difference in the affordability of college for hundreds of thousands of students.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned that the president did call affordability a fake issue, but then he ended up stumping on it this week in Pennsylvania, of all places, which is a battleground state. Some people would look at this and say, well, everybody is wanting to attack affordability now, but like the cost of education has been high for years.
That's right. Well, we've been at this particular issue for most of a decade. With introducing different versions of the bill. In some areas, we got Republican co-sponsors. At other times, they say, no, we're not going to spend $1 of federal money on a project like this. But, a very small investment by the federal government here will save, hundreds of thousands of students, millions of dollars. And it's just a good public investment. And maybe the time now has come.
Okay, so you've introduced it now. What's the next step?
Well, we're going to try to get Republican co-sponsors and try to get it slipped into what's coming up to be election year legislation. And, this is the sort of thing that doesn't cost the government that much money, but would really be a good thing for a member of Congress, Democrat or Republican, to return home and say, here's what I'm doing about college affordability. And so I think it's the fact that the political messaging is good, can maybe help get it across the finish line.
A bipartisan effort to say that education should be more cost effective for all families would be nice. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right. Happy holidays to you. 3:27, everyone. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. It's just about 3:30 right now, and of course, we are in the season full of holiday cheer. But none could be more special for stargazers, especially, than when we get a meteor shower, and we are expected to have a peak weekend coming up. So, I want to go ahead and bring in Michelle Nichols from the Adler Planetarium. We always appreciate having you here.
It's a really great, fun meteor shower for sure.
Okay, so this weekend, tell me the name of this meteor shower and where it gets its name from.
It's called the Geminid meteor shower, and meteor showers are usually named for constellations. So if you take all the little quick streaks of light in the sky that you see and you trace them all back to the point in the sky that they appear to radiate from, this one appears to radiate from the constellation Gemini. So we call it the Geminid meteor shower.
Very interesting for those of us who don't follow this on a regular basis. So why now?
So the Earth runs into the trail of debris left by comets from time to time. And so comets or asteroids in some cases. And so this one, the Earth runs into the particular spot in a trail of debris left by one of these objects. We run into it the same time each year. And this is a rather prolific meteor shower because there's just a bunch of stuff that we run into. And so we get to see even more little quick streaks of light in the sky for this particular meteor shower.
Ooh, okay. Now, how can we see it? I mean, we're talking about precipitation possibly in our area tonight into tomorrow. We've talked about the freezing cold temperatures, cloud cover, all these things. Are we still going to get to see this?
I just checked the weather forecast, and as much as I can tell, it should be clear. So Saturday night into Sunday morning. So the best time to go out is anytime after 9 p.m., 10 p.m. Saturday night, and then into after midnight Sunday morning. So because it's so cold, that tells me it's pretty clear out when that happens. So that's good. But it just means really bundle up, layer up, get all look up. That's it. That's all you have to do. And give your eyes some time to adjust to the dark. And maybe after 20 minutes or so, and you're going to see these quick little streaks of light in the sky. They're going to appear to range across the entire sky. Don't use a telescope. Don't use binoculars. You don't need any of it. Just need your eyes, some patience, and a lot of warm drinks to keep you going.
You might need the warm drinks just to get you out there to want to see it in this type of cold. Now, can you see it in the city and the suburbs, or do you kind of have to be out somewhere away from the city to catch this?
To see the most meteors, you need to be out where it's dark. However, all is not lost. You'll see the brighter ones from light polluted locations, just not as many. So from a really dark location, you can see dozens and dozens and dozens of these per hour. In a light polluted location, we cut the number down by about 50, maybe 75%. But still, we're talking quite a few per hour. More, this is pretty much the most prolific meteor shower that we see during the year.
Wow.
So this is actually a good one, and it might actually be clear out. So I hope folks can see it. But no, you don't have to go out where it's dark. It's just you get to see more if you go out where it's dark.
What a Christmas gift we're getting. This is really interesting stuff. All right, so I hear that you all are going at the Adler Planetarium. You have a ton of things that are happening over the course of the next couple of weeks. Let's lay out some of those things because a lot of people, the kids are getting ready to have their winter break, and maybe people are taking off from work and might have a little extra time on their hands.
Exactly. We are open to the public every day except for Christmas Day between December 22nd and January 14th. Come on in. We've got facilitated activities out on the floor. We have that are specially holiday themed. We've got self-guided experiences. We've got some holiday thematic things going on in our planetarium shows, so look for a bit of holiday cheer in those as well. And we're going to be open as well on our Wednesdays as usual, except we're switching to daytime hours on Wednesday, December 24th and Wednesday, January 1st. So we're open from, or New Year's Eve, sorry, December 31st. So we're open from 9 to 4 on those Wednesdays instead of our evening hours for those days. So folks can go home and come see us and have some fun and then go home and spend time with family.
And so you can do the same.
Exactly.
Right, yeah. Don't forget that. So as you all start to look at 2026, I mean, when we talk about like a prolific weekend this weekend, what are some of the things that you're thinking will really be moments in 2026?
Well, the great thing is meteor showers repeat every year. So we've always got the Perseid meteor shower in August. We've got the Geminids in December. Those are two big ones. There is a total lunar eclipse on March 3rd. It's early in the morning on March 3rd, so we're keeping an eye out for that. And there is a partial lunar eclipse at the end of August in 2026. So those are some of the big highlights. And then hopefully, fingers crossed, NASA sends the Artemis 2 mission around the moon sometime in 2026. Hopefully. We need to see what the timeline is with all of that. So, yeah, there's a lot going on next year.
Yeah, could we be delayed because everything else has been delayed with NASA from the government shutdown? Could that get moved back too?
Yet to be determined. So that was one of the things that we're keeping an eye on, is if the government shutdown caused that to be delayed. So we'll see. They were targeting April, but then they were targeting February. It might be back to April. It might be a little bit later. So we'll see when it happens.
Okay, all right. So we'll kind of have it in our minds, but maybe not on the calendar just yet. What is the Artemis 2 expected to do? What should we get from it? What is it going to be taking?
Yep. So Artemis 2 is going to be taking a crew for the first time in NASA's Space Launch System and Orion Space Launch System rocket and Orion spacecraft. It's going to be a full-on crewed test flight of all of that. It's going to go out to the moon, around and back. And so kind of like what Apollo 8 did in 1968, except this will be a test with an actual crew on the spacecraft, which we haven't done before. So it's going to be pretty exciting.
Wow. Do we already know who the crew will be?
We do. And so there are 4 crew members. 1 is a Canadian astronaut and 3 American astronauts. So yeah, the crew is already set. They're training hard, and I'm sure they are just beyond excited to actually go see the moon closer than we've seen it in decades.
Oh my, that's going to have incredible conversations will come from that, I'm sure, and hopefully some pictures, things of that nature that we don't have to wait extra time for this go round. I have to ask everybody in your field their opinions of Age of Disclosure. Have you seen it?
I have not.
Okay.
I have not. But you're not the first person to ask me about that. So yeah, no, I need to check that out. I got to add that to my holiday list of stuff to watch.
Yeah, while we're making our plans for the holidays, you got to put it on yours, because I would love to know your opinion of it once you see it. So probably the next time we call you back, hopefully look, I'm giving you your homework.
You got it. No problem. I will gladly
you've seen
do
it
that.
by then. Yeah. All right. Anything else that we need to know as we prepare for this weekend or the next couple of weeks?
Just keep looking up and enjoy the weather if it happens to be clear out when it happens, but definitely bundle up. It's going to be chilly. And if it's too cold, come on in, enjoy the Adler Planetarium. We've got our stars aligned astrology and astronomy historic exhibit that opened about a month or so ago. So come on in and check it out. So we'd love to see you.
And can we catch the meteor shower from our phones? Is it just the naked eye?
You may be able to get it with your phone. You won't get as much sky, so you'll need to take lots and lots and lots and lots of pictures. But set your phone to take time lapse or to take images that are at least 3 seconds long. If you can go up to 10 seconds, that would be even better. But just put it on a tripod. You're going to need to hold your phone really steady and just keep taking pictures, because you're going to be taking a small piece of sky, not like with just your eyes when you see a really large piece of sky.
I am going to put in a request right after this show to our meteorologist, Mike Kaplan. That sounds like a mission that he should be on all of our behalfs for the weekend.
There you go. Send him outside. Give him some good meteorology homework to do.
That's his homework for the weekend. I'm just giving homework to everybody for the weekend. Thank you so much. We always love having you on the show and what you bring to the city on a regular basis.
Thank you so much. Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays to you. And everybody, if you do get out and you take pictures, make sure you send them to us. I mean, I am going to text Mike Kaplan because this seems like the sort of thing I probably, without even saying, he's probably going to do over the weekend. But if you have already made plans or you just listened and you made some plans for this weekend, you added it to your list to get out there and try to see the meteor shower, the Geminids, make sure you send us some pictures so that we can put those on the air. Let us know where you are when you took the picture, your name, where you are, and then send the picture in so that we can add it to our coverage. It'll be pretty cool to see. All right, it's 3:40 right now. We'll be right back. We've got to have a really important discussion before we get out of here today. You know, sometimes we try to kind of leave on a happy note and, you know, an upbeat note as we go out for the day and especially for the weekend. But sometimes conversations are just too important to really try to fit them into a certain area. So we had a young lady that was allegedly abducted this week in Evanston, and it was pretty shocking, not just for this community, but for anyone who sees this story. There is a man who's been charged now after the alleged abduction, still waiting on more information about what actually took place, but we're going to go over some of the details of what we have been notified about this thus far, and talk with someone who knows about these types of situations all too well, unfortunately. And she has founded a group now called Safely Ever After. That is coming up after the break. Welcome back, everyone. Preparing for our last discussion of our time together today here on Chicago Live. Let me give you a little background before we bring in our next guest. So I told you that this was about an alleged abduction. Police say that the girl, she was 14, trying to catch a bus to Evanston Township High School on December 3rd. She missed it, and a man driving a gray vehicle approached her, learned that she was late for school, and lured her into his car by offering a ride. Once inside the vehicle, the man implied that he had a knife and forcibly sexually assaulted this young girl. He then drove to an area of the high school, dropped her off, and left. The girl was not physically injured, went into school, and reported it to the SRO. This man has now been identified as Artrez Drain. He's 43 years old. He is facing felony charges of aggravated kidnapping and aggravated criminal sexual abuse on December 10th. So this story has had people looking up details all week to try to find out what happened and especially how to prevent it from happening to anyone else, because police say this incident may not have been isolated. I want to go ahead and bring in Patty Fitzgerald, the founder of Safely Ever After, to talk a little bit about this incident and incidents like it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Patty, give us a little bit of your background.
Okay. I created Safely Ever After 25 years ago, safelyEverAfter.com, in order to teach parents and children in the schools throughout the country how to be safe from sexual abuse and abduction. So I have curriculum, I've written some children's books on the subject, and my goal is prevention education instead of damage control.
Mm-hmm. Why did you choose this particular topic to want to help parents?
I grew up a long time ago, and as a child, everything was focused on stranger danger. Mm-hmm. And statistically, that is not the biggest threat to children. But even in a case like what's just happened in Evanston, strangers very often don't present themselves in a stranger dangerous type of way.
Sure.
I became a mother 25 years ago, and I thought there's got to be a better way to teach my daughter than the way I was taught.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
that's how it started.
Tell me about Safely Ever After. What do you provide? How many people do you interact with throughout the year?
Oof, I would say thousands, because I work now on Zoom, doing Zoom workshops to families and schools throughout the country. I do lots of private one-on-one consults for families who maybe need some resources after the fact. So I've been pretty busy, unfortunately, for the last 25 years.
Very unfortunate, but really important. Like we were saying, you don't want to have these conversations, but we do have to have these conversations. It's just an unfortunate reality of the world that we live in here. So you say it takes less than a minute for a predator to lure a child away. This was a 14-year-old girl. So when we say child, we're not just talking about little kids.
No, we're not. We have to remember a 14-year-old is still a child. Yes. And that's the problem, is a lot of time parents assume that their 13, 14, 15-year-old child already knows how to handle a sticky situation, an unsafe situation like that. But we actually have to talk to our kids throughout their lives about being safe when they're out there alone. 14 years old, they're still kids, and they are developmentally still easily and quickly tricked by someone who seems either friendly or poses a threat, like says he has a knife.
Absolutely. Or just saying like, hey, I can help you get to school. I mean, it's not worth what could happen from getting in the car.
Exactly. And I'm sure that until she got in the car, the perpetrator probably, his approach was probably very kind and nurturing and just friendly. And so even though he was a stranger, the danger part of it didn't come in that 14-year-old's mind.
Exactly. So let's go over some of the rules and the skills. Let's start with rules. Yeah. Some of the rules that you try to impart upon the adults, who are caring for young people, but then also to the young people themselves. What are some of the rules?
Absolutely. Well, the rules are, number one, you're the boss of your own body. It sounds a little youngish, kiddish, but boss of my body means that each kid, from the time they are child till they are an adult, should feel that they own their body. They're in charge of their body. And they're in charge of who asks them to do what with their body. But one of the important things to teach kids, especially in this situation, safe grown-ups, when you're out there in the world, safe grown-ups don't ask kids for help. Somebody who needs help will ask another adult for assistance. And in this situation, a safe adult will not offer their services to a kid who is by themselves, because a safe adult knows that would not be safe for them as well as the child. They don't want to put themselves in that position or in that situation. So the minute somebody's asking to either help you, going to get you to school on time, or ask you for help, oh, can you help me? I'm lost. Can you come close to my car? Their simple answer, one of the rules for kids is to just know what to say. And the word is nope.
It's simple.
That's it. Kids nobody's ever told them. Parents, just tell your kids. Somebody approaches them, the word is nope. They don't get into a discussion, a conversation, a negotiation. And then also the rule is turn around, go in the opposite direction. Because especially if that person is in a car, you're going in the opposite direction. You just turn around and go back where you came from. It's going to be harder for that person to make a U-turn or to follow you. So you basically are taking yourself out of the line of danger for that moment.
All right, let's go over skills. What are some of the skills that we can show or teach young people in our care?
Well, the first thing is teach kids that it's okay to say nope. Teach kids that even though somebody looks friendly, we don't know for sure, and we don't take the chance. We have to teach kids that it's okay to yell, like with that word no, or if the situation even seems more dangerous or scary. Very often the perpetrator will say, "Don't run, don't yell." We got to teach kids. If somebody says to you, "Don't run, don't yell," what it really means is run and yell. The perpetrator is telling you how to get out of the situation. That's why they're telling you don't run, don't yell. So if somebody says don't run, run. If somebody says don't yell, yell. One thing that stops a predator from harming a child is a loud voice. And that's hard sometimes, especially for a 14-year-old girl. It's hard sometimes to feel like she can say really out loud, nope, and turn around. But that is what we have to teach our kids. Also, no distractions, no earphones, no texting, because you're caught off guard. And then all of a sudden you look up and there's, that person who wants to give you a ride to school. Your brain is on delay, and it sounds good, and you're late, and you're not thinking in the moment clearly of where you are and what my situation is, and kids can make an impulsive decision in that kind of situation. So if you're gonna walk with music in your ear, at least only one ear. You need one ear to really keep open, so you know everything around you. Another one I tell kids, no shortcuts through alleys or back roads, and as often as possible, stay on a main road. And if you feel threatened or you feel uncomfortable or somebody's walking behind you, again, get out of the line of danger, either cross the street or go into a public store or public office where there are other people, like a 7-Eleven or an office building or something like that. So parents can teach their kids if you're walking to school, as you're walking, where's your exit strategy? What's your exit building?
Go ahead and identify them.
Go ahead and identify them, and never, ever, ever, ever get into a car.
Yeah.
If you can, as long as you don't get into that car, you stand a much better chance of being safe.
Yeah, she's very lucky to be alive, although physically okay doesn't mean that emotionally and psychologically that you're okay after something like this happening to you. Tell me about where people can find you and where you do your programs, how people can access the tools that you have.
Sure. I'm based in Los Angeles, but I have a website called safelyeverafter.com, and people contact me through my website, and I will do a Zoom workshop. I will do a private consult on Zoom, or they can invite me to come to their town, which is sometimes what happens. Come to your town and work throughout your school district for a week.
All right. Sounds wonderful. Thank you so much for your time and for you sharing your expertise in such a way to help families everywhere.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Happy holidays to you.
Same to you.
And I do want to let everyone know that the police in Evanston, I want to loop back around to that initial story that I told you about. They're asking anyone with information about that incident or maybe similar encounters. Again, they don't believe that it was an isolated incident. They do not believe it was an isolated incident. Maybe there is someone out there that hasn't told their parents yet. Talk to your kids about what happened in Evanston and see if maybe something similar happened to them. So anyone with information about this incident or similar encounters is asked to contact the Evanston Police Department Detective Bureau. I'm going to give you this number twice. It's 847-866 5040. Again, 847-866 5040. We've covered a lot of ground today, and like I said, this last story, typically we try to kind of leave on a high note, but this was really important for us to have in our broadcast. Again, with them not even thinking that this is an isolated incident, we don't want to see anyone else go through something like this. There have been several stories that we've had today that kind of fit that same narrative of things that we never want to see other people have to go through. And a lot of that takes us talking about them, not being afraid to have the discussions, the difficult discussions that come with them. We started off the broadcast, if you weren't with us, at 1 o'clock with one of the hardest discussions, quite honestly. It was about sextortion. And we talked to a family that lost their son. Who just in a matter of a couple of hours online was lured into sending pictures that then turned into someone coercing him to take his life, which he did. An extremely difficult conversation. But again, this family turning their pain into purpose to help more families across the country as we all have to navigate a world with more internet access for people of all ages. And so they want to be able to help other families out there, so that was an important discussion to have. We had this discussion about this alleged abduction that took place again there in Evanston. If we can leave on a bit of a high note here, I will say that, this time yesterday we had taken you to the Lori Children's Radiothon that was going on. It formally has ended, but they are still taking donations in the Radiothon. We've raised already more than $900,000. Remember, they were trying to get over that $1 million mark, and we know that they can. So let me give you some information, some parting information, if you will, so that if you want to be a part of that wonderful effort to help the families who end up having to spend time there at Lori's, and the doctors and the researchers who try to help families today and in the future, let me give you that information as well, because hopefully you're taking notes. I was just giving you information about reaching out if you need to for Evanston Police. But if you want to help out with the Lori Children's Radiothon, call 1-888-831-7733, 1-888-831-7733, or you can text Lurie, Lurie, to 34984. Thank you so much for being here with us today on Chicago Live. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you back here from 1 to 4 on Monday. And of course, go Bears.